The Art of Flowing, a Zen story about patience and inner wisdom. In the silent valleys where time seems to stand still and ancient wisdom whispers through the bamboo leaves, a story is born, one that will transform your understanding of the art of living. This is the story of Kenji, a young man consumed by impatience, who will discover that life's most precious treasures are not conquered by force, but revealed to those who know how to wait with an open heart. Through 8 chapters filled with profound teachings and moments of revelation, you are invited to walk beside our protagonist along a path where every step is a lesson, every encounter an opportunity for growth, and every moment of stillness a doorway to true wisdom. This Zen story will remind you that in a world obsessed with speed and instant results, there exists a more elegant and powerful way to live, the art of not forcing anything and allowing all things to arrive in their perfect time. Prepare to discover that true strength resides in gentleness, that the greatest wisdom is found in patience, and that the most beautiful miracles happen when we stop chasing them. Chapter 1. The Impatient Garden. Kenji awoke that morning with a racing heart and trembling hands. Today was the day he would finally meet Master Takeshi, the legendary gardener whose Zen garden was famous throughout the province. He had traveled for days to reach this hidden temple in the mountains, carrying with him a single question that had haunted him for years. How can I find inner peace? At the temple gates, Kenji was greeted by an old man with a white beard and serene eyes. "I am Takeshi," he said simply, without ceremony. "I hear you seek answers." "Master," Kenji began urgently, "I've tried everything. Forced meditation, extreme fasting, complicated rituals. Nothing works. My mind is still a storm of worries and desires. What is the secret?" The master smiled and gestured toward his garden. "Come, help me with the plants." Kenji followed, expecting a direct answer. Instead, Takeshi handed him a shovel and pointed to an area where bamboo seeds had been planted the previous week. "These seeds," Takeshi explained, "can take up to 3 years before showing their first shoots, but when they do, they can grow nearly a foot in a single day." 3 years, Kenji exclaimed, frustrated. "That's far too long. There must be a faster way." The master knelt beside the seeds and began watering them slowly and deliberately. "Tell me, young Kenji, what do you think would happen if we kept digging them up, trying to force their growth?" "I suppose we'd destroy them," Kenji admitted reluctantly. "Exactly. The seed knows when its moment has come. During those seemingly silent years, it's building a root system so strong that once it emerges, nothing can stop its growth." Kenji looked at the tiny mounds of soil, feeling for the first time a strange calm as he imagined their unseen labor. "Your inner peace," Takeshi continued, "is like these seeds. It's already planted within you. But every time you force it with aggressive techniques and immediate expectations, you disturb it. Peace cannot be conquered. It must be cultivated with patience." That night, Kenji stayed at the temple, reflecting on the master's words. For the first time in years, he didn't try to meditate correctly or empty his mind by force. He simply sat in silence, like a seed waiting for its perfect moment to bloom. Chapter 2. The Lesson of the River. At dawn the next day, Master Takeshi woke Kenji before sunrise. "Today we will walk to the river," he said. "There's something you need to see." They walked in silence along winding paths until they reached a beautiful river flowing between the rocks. Kenji immediately noticed something striking. The water did not fight against the stones in its path, but instead moved gracefully around them, creating elegant shapes and melodic sounds. "Watch," said Takeshi, sitting on a rock by the shore. "This river has been flowing for thousands of years. It has never hurried, never forced its way." Kenji sat beside him, mesmerized by the water's movement. But Master, the river always reaches its destination. Exactly. And look how it has shaped these rocks over time, not with violence but with gentle persistence. A drop of water does not fear the stone, because it does not compete with it. At that moment, a golden fish leapt from the water, creating ripples that spread softly across the surface. That fish, Takeshi observed, did not plan its jump for hours. It simply felt the perfect moment and acted. No doubt, no paralysis by analysis, just natural action in harmony with the moment. Kenji felt a revelation stirring inside him. Are you saying I must become like the water? I'm showing you that you already are water, corrected the master gently. Your true nature is to flow, to adapt, to find your path without force. But you've forgotten this because you've been trying to be a rock fighting the current. They remained there for hours, and Kenji noticed his breathing begin to naturally synchronize with the rhythm of the river. For the first time in a long while, his thoughts weren't racing toward the future or clinging to the past. They were simply flowing, like the water before him. Master, Kenji whispered, I feel something different, as if a tension I didn't even know I carried is being released. That tension, Takeshi explained, comes from resisting what is. The river never resists its course. That's why its flow is so beautiful and powerful. When you stop resisting your authentic nature, peace arises naturally. As they returned to the temple that afternoon, Kenji walked differently. His steps were softer, his breathing deeper. He had begun to remember how to flow. Chapter 3: The Master of Waiting. On the third day, a gentle rain tapped a hypnotic rhythm on the temple roof. Kenji expected Master Takeshi to cancel their activities, but instead he found him sitting motionless in the garden, serene beneath the rain. Master, you're getting soaked, Kenji said, rushing over with an umbrella. Takeshi smiled without moving. The rain is not my enemy. Why should I hide from it? Kenji stood beside him, puzzled. But you could catch cold. Sit with me, invited Takeshi. Leave the umbrella. Reluctantly, Kenji sat down on the wet ground. At first he tensed against the cold drops, but gradually, following Takeshi's example, he began to relax. 40 years ago, began the master, rain running down his wrinkled face. A young monk came to this temple, just like you. He was desperate for enlightenment. He begged me to teach him the fastest secret. What did you tell him? Asked Kenji, genuinely curious. I told him to sit beneath this very tree and wait. Wait for what? Wait. Kenji frowned. I don't understand. That young man sat here for days, constantly asking me when his enlightenment would come, what signs he should look for, what techniques he should practice. Each day I gave him the same answer, wait. The rain softened, becoming a gentle whisper. After a month, the young man grew furious. I've wasted my time, he shouted. I've learned nothing, and he left the temple. But what was he supposed to learn from waiting? Kenji pressed. Takeshi turned and looked him directly in the eyes. Exactly what you are learning right now. In that moment, Kenji realized that for the past several minutes, he hadn't been thinking about anything other than the master's words, the feel of the rain, the stillness of the present. His anxious mind had found a natural pause. The waiting I teach is not passive, Takeshi continued. It is a state of relaxed alertness, of complete presence. When we truly wait, without agenda, without hurry, something extraordinary happens. The present moment reveals its full richness. That young man who left 40 years ago, Kenji murmured. Did he ever return? Yes, Takeshi smiled mysteriously. He returned 3 days ago, a wise man. You know him well. Kenji stared, confused. until the realization struck him like lightning. The old master himself had once been that impatient young man. "Master, I learned that enlightenment is not something you conquer, it is something you allow. The rain taught me this. It never forces its arrival. It simply comes when the conditions are right. And when it does, it nourishes everything it touches." They sat beneath the rain until it ceased on its own. Kenji felt something deep within him shift. He had learned his first true lesson about the sacred art of conscious waiting. Chapter 4: The Wisdom of Bamboo. On the fourth day, Kenji awoke with an unfamiliar feeling. For the first time in years, he felt no rush to get anywhere. He dressed slowly, savoring each movement, and went to the garden, where he found Master Takeshi carefully pruning a bamboo plant. "Good morning, Kenji," the master greeted without looking up. "Did you sleep well?" "Strangely well," Kenji admitted. "I dreamed I was a tree rooted deeply in the earth, and for once the dream didn't make me anxious." Takeshi smiled as he snipped a branch with precision. "Dreams are teachers too, when we stop trying to control them. Come, help me with this bamboo." Kenji observed the plants. Some were tall and flexible, others young and tender. "Master, why is bamboo so important in Zen gardens?" "Watch these plants during a storm," Takeshi replied, "and you'll understand one of life's deepest secrets." As if summoned by his words, the wind suddenly picked up. Kenji watched in awe as the bamboo stalks bent dramatically with each gust, but never broke. "Bamboo does not resist the wind," explained the master, calmly pruning as the storm grew. "It yields completely, and that's why it survives the fiercest storms that destroy the mightiest oaks." "But master," Kenji objected, "that seems like weakness." "Weakness." Takeshi bent a bamboo stalk almost to the ground. When he released it, it sprang back instantly, unharmed. "Does this look weak to you?" Kenji was astonished. "It's incredible. It's as if it remembers." "Exactly. Bamboo knows its true nature so deeply that it can allow temporary flexibility without ever losing itself. It can bend completely and still know exactly what it is." At that moment, a particularly strong gust bent the entire grove into a synchronized dance, beautiful and terrifying at once. "Humans," Takeshi continued, "often mistake rigidity for strength. They cling so tightly to their ideas, their plans, their expectations, that when life's inevitable storms come, they break." "And what about principles? About values?" Kenji asked, genuinely concerned about the implication. "Ah," Takeshi's eyes sparkled. "True principles are like bamboo roots, deep, strong, invisible. They are what allow the plant to be flexible above the surface. When your values are truly rooted in your heart, you can be infinitely flexible in your methods without ever compromising your essence." Kenji watched the bamboo swaying harmoniously. "So, not forcing means being like the bamboo?" "It means recognizing that life will always bring unexpected winds. You can fight them and break, or you can learn to dance with them while keeping your roots firm." That evening, as another real storm rolled in, Kenji sat on the temple veranda watching the bamboo. Each plant seemed to be celebrating the wind instead of resisting it. And for the first time, Kenji felt he understood what it meant to be strong by being gentle, to be firm by being flexible. "Master," he said softly, "I think I'm beginning to understand." "Don't try to understand," Takeshi replied with a smile. "Simply be like the bamboo. Understanding will come on its own." Chapter 5: The Art of Letting Go. The fifth dawn found Kenji sitting spontaneously in meditation, something he had not done on his own initiative in years. He wasn't forcing any particular technique. He was simply present with his breath, as he had learned to be present with the rain and the wind. Master Takeshi approached silently and sat down beside him. They remained that way for an hour in silent companionship until the sun fully rose over the mountains. "Kenji," the master finally said, "there is something I must show you, but first, give me your travel bag." Confused but trusting, Kenji handed him his canvas bag, heavy with the objects he had considered essential for his spiritual quest. Books on meditation, amulets, special stones, rare incense, and a collection of notes on spiritual techniques. Takeshi opened the bag and began taking out the objects one by one, placing them carefully on the ground. "Tell me about these things," he requested. "Well," Kenji began, "this book contains 100 different meditation techniques. This stone is from a sacred temple in Tibet. These incense sticks are for purifying the environment. And these notes, I've been collecting spiritual teachings for years." "I see," Takeshi nodded. "And have they brought you the peace you seek?" Kenji hesitated. "Well, I thought eventually they would." "Kenji, tell me, does a bird need a map to fly south in the winter?" "No, master. It simply knows." "And does it need a book to explain how to build its nest?" "No." "Does it carry amulets to feel safe during its flight?" "No, master." Takeshi began walking toward the edge of a small cliff near the temple. "Come with me and bring your things." Kenji gathered all his spiritual belongings and followed the master. When they reached the edge, Takeshi turned to him with a completely serious expression. "Kenji, these objects represent your external search for something you already possess internally. They are like crutches for someone who has forgotten that he can walk. Are you willing to remember who you truly are?" Kenji's heart raced. He knew what the master was asking of him. "But master, what if I need them? What if without them I can't find the way?" "That question," Takeshi smiled gently, "reveals exactly why you must let them go." Kenji looked at his cherished objects. Each one represented years of searching, money spent, hopes invested. But he also realized that they represented his belief that peace was somewhere outside himself. With trembling hands, he picked up the first book. "I have memorized every technique in this book," he murmured, "but none has given me lasting peace," and he threw it over the cliff. One by one, he began to release his objects. With each thing he let go of, he felt as if an invisible weight was lifting off his shoulders. The amulets, the stones, the rare incense, the carefully written notes, all flew into the void. When he finished, he stood with empty hands, breathing deeply. "How do you feel?" asked Takeshi. To Kenji's surprise, he felt free, freer than he had felt in years. "I feel light," he admitted, "as if I could fly." "You have let go of your external search," the master observed. "Now you can find what has always been there." That night, Kenji meditated without books, without techniques, without sacred objects. For the first time, he didn't try to achieve anything. He simply sat in the vastness of his own being and discovered that he was already complete. Chapter 6. The Dance of the Present. The sixth day dawned with a crystal clarity that seemed to reflect Kenji's inner state. He woke without the usual urgency to do something spiritual, and instead found himself simply living each moment with a natural, relaxed attention. He found Master Takeshi preparing tea in the temple kitchen with movements that seemed like a meditation in themselves. "Good morning, Kenji," he greeted without lifting his eyes from the teapot. "There is something different about you this morning." "I feel present," replied Kenji, surprised by the simplicity of his words, "as if I had stopped running toward something." "Perfect," Takeshi smiled, serving 2 steaming cups of tea. "Today you will learn about the most beautiful dance in the universe." They carried their cups to the garden, where a group of butterflies danced among the flowers. Kenji watched them, fascinated by their seemingly random movements, perfectly coordinated with the present moment. "Look at that butterfly." Takeshi pointed to a golden one resting delicately on a lotus flower. "Is it worried about the next flower it will visit?" "No," Kenji replied. "It seems completely absorbed in this flower." "Exactly. And when it finishes with this flower, it will naturally move to the next, guided by something wiser than thought. The wisdom of the present moment." The butterfly, as if hearing his words, lifted off and gracefully flew to another nearby flower. "Humans," Takeshi continued, "are the only creatures who live simultaneously in 3 times. Regretting the past, anticipating the future, and completely missing the present. But the present is where all real life exists." Kenji felt the truth of these words resonate in his chest. "Master, I have been living everywhere except here. And that is perfectly fine," Takeshi replied compassionately. "It was part of your path. But now you can choose differently. Now you can choose to dance. To dance. The dance of the present. Watch." Takeshi slowly rose and began to move with extraordinary fluidity, as if his movements were a silent conversation with the wind, the flowers, and the sunlight. It was not a technical or choreographed dance. It was pure response to the moment, pure expression of being completely alive in the here and now. "There are no steps to learn," he explained while moving. "You only need to listen to what this moment is asking of you and respond with your whole being." Kenji initially felt self-conscious, but something in the master's total freedom inspired him. Slowly, he too began to move, stiff at first, then with growing fluidity. "Don't think about how you look," Takeshi murmured. "Think about how it feels to be fully present in your body, in this garden, in this instant." Gradually, Kenji felt his movements synchronize with something greater than himself. It was as if he were dancing with the invisible rhythm of the universe. "This is it," he whispered. "This is what I've been searching for." "No," Takeshi gently corrected, without stopping his movement. "This is what you have always had. You had only forgotten how to access it." They danced until the sun reached its highest point. When they finally stopped, Kenji felt more alive and complete than he could ever remember. "Master," he asked while catching his breath, "how can I carry this feeling with me when I return to my daily life?" "The dance of the present does not require a Zen garden," Takeshi replied. "You can dance it while washing dishes, walking down the street, talking with a friend. Every moment is an invitation to be fully present, and being fully present is the purest form of prayer." That afternoon, Kenji practiced the dance of the present in simple activities. Sweeping leaves, preparing food, even just breathing. Every activity became a meditation in motion when done with full presence. Chapter 7. The Mirror of the Lake. On the morning of the 7th day, Kenji woke with a feeling of anticipation mixed with sadness. He knew he would soon have to leave the temple, but for the first time in his life, he was in no hurry to reach his next destination. The present had become so rich and complete that the future no longer called him with desperate urgency. Master Takeshi was waiting for him with a mysterious smile. "Today we will take a special journey," he announced. "There is a hidden lake in these mountains that I want to show you." They walked for several hours along winding paths, gradually climbing toward the higher peaks. Kenji noticed that he no longer felt the restless mental agitation that had once accompanied long walks. Instead of worrying about the destination or calculating the time left, he found himself naturally absorbed in each step, each view, each breath. "Master," he said as they walked, "I feel as if something fundamental has changed in me, but I can't explain exactly what it is." "The deepest transformations," Takeshi replied, happen in silence, like the growth of a tree. One day you simply realize that you are different. At last they arrived at a clearing where the most perfect lake Kenji had ever seen spread out before them. Its surface was like a crystal mirror, reflecting with absolute precision the surrounding mountains, the passing clouds, and the infinite sky. "Sit here," Takeshi instructed, pointing to a smooth rock by the shore, "and look deeply into the water." Kenji sat and leaned over the lake. At first, he saw his own reflection clearly, but as he continued to gaze, something extraordinary began to happen. His reflection seemed to dissolve gradually, and in its place he saw something that took his breath away. He saw the sky. "What do you see?" the master asked softly. "I see the sky," Kenji murmured in awe. "But I am the one looking." Exactly. When your mind becomes as clear and still as this lake's surface, you no longer see only your small separate self. You see your true nature, which is vast like the sky. Kenji continued to gaze at the water, and the revelation deepened. "Master, there is no difference between the sky in the water and the sky above. They are the same sky. And there is no difference," Takeshi continued, "between your consciousness and universal consciousness. When you stop agitating the surface with frantic thoughts and desperate desires, you discover that you have always been one with everything that exists." Tears began rolling down Kenji's cheeks, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of recognition, of coming home. "My entire search," he whispered, "my whole struggle to find peace, but it was already here. It was always here." "Yes," Takeshi nodded. "The peace you sought was not something you could obtain or conquer. It was something you needed to stop covering with layers of effort and anxiety." They remained by the lake until sunset. Kenji experienced long periods where there was no separation between himself, the lake, the mountains, and the sky. Everything was a single fluid experience of pure consciousness. "Master," he finally said as the sun began to set, "how can I maintain this clarity when I return to the world?" "Don't maintain it," Takeshi replied unexpectedly. "Trust that it is always there. Like the sky is always there even when clouds cover it. The clouds come and go, but the sky remains. Your thoughts and emotions come and go, but your true nature remains." That night, Kenji slept by the lake under a blanket of stars. He dreamed he was the lake, the sky, the mountains, and the stars all at once. And when he woke, the feeling of vastness remained. Chapter 8. The Eternal Present. The 8th day arrived with a softness that reflected the complete transformation that had occurred in Kenji. He woke before dawn, not out of restlessness, but from a natural joy that seemed to radiate from every cell of his body. He knew it was time to leave the temple, but he also knew he would never truly leave behind the teachings he had received. He found Master Takeshi sitting in the same place where they had first met a week earlier, in the Zen garden. But now everything seemed different. The same trees, the same stones, the same plants, yet perceived through entirely new eyes. "Good morning, Master," Kenji greeted, naturally sitting down beside the old man. "Good morning, Kenji. How do you awaken?" "I awaken complete," Kenji replied after a pause, "as if I had been fragmented for years and finally all the pieces had found their place." Takeshi smiled with the satisfaction of a gardener watching a cherished plant bloom. "Tell me what you have learned." Kenji contemplated the plants he had watered that first day, now seeing them with deep understanding. "I have learned that wisdom cannot be forced, like the bamboo seeds that take years to sprout, but then grow with unstoppable strength. I have learned that true strength is like the river's water, soft yet persistent, capable of shaping the hardest rocks without violence." "Continue," the master encouraged. I have learned that waiting is not passivity, but total presence. That being flexible like bamboo is not weakness, but profound wisdom. That letting go of external crutches allows you to discover inner strength. That every present moment is a sacred dance if we know how to participate in it. Kenji paused, recalling the lake of the day before. And I have learned that what I was seeking was never lost. It was here, in the clarity of my own consciousness, like the sky is always present behind the clouds. And now, said Takeshi, comes the true teaching. The true teaching? Everything you have experienced here was preparation. The true teaching begins when you return to your daily life and discover how to live this wisdom in the world. Kenji felt a moment of unease, but immediately recognized it and let it pass like a cloud in the sky of his awareness. Master, what if I forget? What if the pressures of the world bring me back to my old anxious state? That question, Takeshi smiled, shows that you have not yet fully understood. What you have awakened is not something you can lose, because it is not something you have acquired. It is what you have always been. The master rose and walked toward the bamboo seeds they had planted together. Look, he said, pointing to the ground. Kenji approached and, to his amazement, saw the first green shoots emerging from the earth. Tiny, but unmistakably alive and growing. Impossible, he murmured. You said they would take 3 years. These particular seeds, Takeshi explained with a mischievous smile, were planted 3 years ago. We planted them here the day before you arrived. Kenji looked at him in total wonder. You knew I would come? I knew that when the student was ready, he would appear, just as these plants knew when it was the perfect moment to emerge. The final understanding came to Kenji like a gentle yet powerful wave. All of this, every lesson, every moment, came exactly when it needed to come. Exactly. You didn't force anything, and everything arrived in its perfect time. This is the teaching you will carry with you. Trust the natural timing of life. Trust your inner wisdom. Trust that everything you need will come when the time is right. Together, they prepared the farewell tea in contemplative silence. When the time came to leave, Kenji bowed deeply before his master. Master Takeshi, how can I thank you for all you have given me? You are not thanking me, the old man replied. You are thanking yourself for finally being willing to receive what has always been available. Kenji picked up his bag, now light and simple, and headed toward the exit path. When he turned for one last look, he saw the master watering new seeds in the garden, preparing the ground for the next seeker who would arrive exactly when it was their time. As he descended the mountain path, Kenji no longer felt the urgency to hurry home. Instead, every step was a meditation, every view a gift, every breath a silent celebration of being alive. He had arrived at the temple seeking answers, but he was leaving with something far more valuable. The understanding that the most important questions already had answers in the natural wisdom of his own being. The wind gently moved the leaves around him, and Kenji moved with it, no longer fighting against the current of life, but flowing with it in perfect harmony. For the first time in his life, he was truly at home, no matter where he was. He had learned the supreme art, the art of forcing nothing and allowing everything to arrive in its perfect time. And in that understanding, he found the peace he had sought his entire life. A peace he now knew he could never lose, because it had never truly been lost. The path stretched before him, not as a race toward a distant destination, but as an endless series of present moments, each complete and perfect in itself. Kenji smiled and continued walking, carrying with him the wisdom of the Zen garden. That the most beautiful life blooms when we stop forcing and learn to flow with the natural grace of the eternal moment. The inner garden. Years later, when people asked Kenji about his transformation, He simply smiled and told them about a garden in the mountains where he had learned that peace is not something to be found, but something to be allowed. And when he saw someone struggling with the same desperate anxiety he had once known so well, he gently whispered the words that had changed his life. Force nothing. Everything will arrive in its perfect time. For he had learned that these were not just pretty words, but the master key that opens the door to a life of grace, flow, and deep inner fulfillment. The Zen garden had done its work. It had shown a lost soul the way home, and that home, Kenji discovered, was in the eternal present that lives in the heart of every conscious moment. This Zen story reminds us that true wisdom cannot be forced, only cultivated with patience, presence, and trust in life's perfect timing. Like bamboo seeds, our spiritual awakening has its own natural rhythm, and when the moment arrives, nothing can stop its blossoming.